It's been a long, long time since you've heard my sweet voice. Welcome back.
Not long
Enough?
What? No, I didn't.
Whoa, whoa.
What?
This is another episode of the greatest podcast in Payne County.
Grammy award winning.
Run by two priests. I heard we won an award at Opryland. Is that true?
I was in Nashville 2 weeks ago.
Really?
I did not go to Opryland.
Oh.
Time did not allow for such luxuries.
Did you see Elvis's home?
I did not.
No?
That's in Memphis.
Oh.
Graceland.
Did you see the Kentucky Derby?
That's in Louisville.
Well, I apparently...
I have been to the Kentucky Derby, though.
Well.
I saw Tom Brady.
Where?
At the Kentucky Derby.
In what year?
2005, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Also, one of the guys from NSYNC was there. And, drum roll, O.J. Simpson.
What? Was he out of jail?
I guess
Obviously,
he was at the Derby.
Wow. That's how we begin these shows around here, with big wow moments. Again, welcome back to the Pastors of Payne show, podcast, radio here on Pete FM.
We're coming up on 90,000 downloads.
Is that a lot?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's just a number.
90,000? Okay.
Something like that.
90,000
But we're glad you're with us.
Well, 90,000
Father
is.
Kerry, you have been, we've both been a little bit on the road.
Uh-huh.
I'll briefly, I had a wedding in Nashville, Tennessee. I'd never been to Nashville.
Never?
I am a fan.
It's a great town. Lots of good music.
I need to go back.
There's a Focus conference there in Nashville.
It's impressive. And then I was back here in Stillwater and then had another wedding down in Fredericksburg, Texas. Also had never been there, and also a wonderful place that I would like to revisit again.
Fredericksburg, Texas?
The hills of central Texas are really something.
It is your state.
Most importantly is now we have two wonderful couples married in the church.
Wow. We need to do an episode on marriage.
Okay.
Why we have come together. Not today, because today, okay, so.
Yeah, so I went to Nashville, I went to Fredericksburg, but you, Father Kerry.
I was in a tornado last week in Kansas. I mean, I've been all over the place.
There's a movie about that.
Not The Wizard of Oz.
So, school finished. Graduation
May 10th.
happened.
Uh-huh.
You had the last mass at your
correct
in your church building.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because one distinction we want to make when people say the parish is closed. It's not. The parish is not closed.
No.
The parish exists.
Correct.
It's just that you no longer have a workable building.
That's right. It's empty.
You're a church without walls.
We're so open.
You're like the early church.
Yes. We have no altar.
Yeah, so the parish exists. So if someone says, I need help from St. John's, they can call you.
Well, they can't call us because we have no phones right now.
You have a phone.
I do have a cell phone.
Yeah.
Yes, they can call.
You have a website.
Uh-huh.
You still have a working staff who are getting paid.
Uh-huh. And until
you're still taking donations.
Yep, all that stuff. All that stuff. It's still working. It's just like in bits and pieces. You know, my staff has done a pretty fantastic job of organizing and moving this whole thing. Like Lauren Lacey got the Knights of Columbus together to help move everything out. Got like Ziegler's to move all the
Knights
stuff.
of Columbus Council 5266. Shout out.
Wow.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So anyway, just there's a lot of stuff going on, and so in my pilgrimage, every year I take a pilgrimage with college students, and it's fantastic. I mean, to watch these kids grow in their faith life, mind blowing.
So usually,
it's somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, usually in the last couple of years, you went to Belgium, you went to Poland.
We went Belgium, Luxembourg, France, Germany, and the Netherlands. In one trip.
That was one trip?
Yeah.
Oh, sounds
We've
like a
done
lot.
Poland.
Yep.
We've done all of France.
Oh. All of France?
Yeah, we just did like a big circle. A big circle around the interior, the upper interior.
But
this year we
Milwaukee.
We were supposed to do Ireland last year. So this year we did America. We did this. We did we call them the 5 Bs. I know this chair's squeaky. Every time I move it goes. I don't know.
Let's try to focus.
We did baseball stadiums, basilicas,
okay,
breweries, battlefields. I guess that's only 4 B's.
Oh, and
awesome museums.
And baptism.
And baptism. No, so we did the 4 B's.
Okay, what baseball fields did you go to?
So we followed the Milwaukee Brewers. So we went to Milwaukee, but we went to St. Louis first.
Milwaukee? Algonquin for the good land.
So,
okay,
well, we're not the first visitors to Milwaukee, Garth. And he sits there quietly. He's like, the Algonquins were here. Anyway, so we did all of these. Went to St. Louis and did like the city of St. Louis, some really fun stuff. We did really cool, like fun museums, like the City Museum.
I just want to talk about baseball.
Old St. Joe's Shrine.
We've moved on from baseball.
Okay, and then we went up to Milwaukee and we went to a Milwaukee Brewers game, and then did the basilicas of Milwaukee. And just
this is not something you normally hear about, the basilicas of Milwaukee.
What's called the Polish Basilica, and there's a church, the Church of St. Stanislav, which is in Milwaukee.
Sounds Polish.
Amazing. So beautiful. And then we just saw shrines and great restaurants and breweries, and then we went to the Milwaukee Brewers Battle. And then we went up to Our Lady of Good Help, which is one of the Marian apparitions. It's like Lourdes, Fatima, Guadalupe, Champion, Wisconsin.
The town is called Champion?
Champion.
Oh.
Yeah, and there's 2 Marian apparitions of Banu and Barang, which are also the same Belgian people as were in northeast Wisconsin. It's called the Pishtigo Fire. It was a huge fire that it's the largest fire ever in American history, but it was overshadowed by the Chicago fire. And there were like 1,200 people that were killed during this fire. And the fire was so hot that it was moving from Wisconsin. It didn't go to Green Bay and burn Green Bay. It jumped the bay of Green Bay. They say it was moving with such heat and with such energy. The wind was sweeping down the plains.
It's hot.
That the fire just leaped Green Bay and kept going. And it went to the Marian, the shrine where this woman, Mary was appearing to this woman. And literally all the people just came to this church and were praying.
Is this new? When was this?
Cardinal Dolan, no, it was 1800s.
Oh, okay.
Same time as the Chicago fire. So it's Cardinal Dolan who then is responsible for
now the Archbishop in New York.
Yeah,
but he was in Milwaukee before New York. Yep.
Exactly. Yep. And so he made this happen because people talked about it. So then after that, we went to Our Lady of Guadalupe in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and then into Minnesota, don't you know, and then down into Iowa. And there's a place called the
you had everyone in the back of your truck?
No, in the bed of my truck, yeah. No, we had 2 vehicles, my truck and then a rental van. And then we went to Kansas City and went to, again, baseball, history, American history. We went to the Kansas City Royals game, who were playing the Milwaukee Brewers. We went to the Negro League Hall of Fame in Kansas City.
Oh, I want to go.
The Jazz
so
Museum.
Bad.
Oh, the Negro League Hall of Fame. It's fantastic.
I gotta
go. There's some really cool things that you got to see, and sort of the sadness of American history of racism.
Yep.
We also went to the World War I Museum, which if you have time.
How long was this trip?
Oh my gosh, this was 11 days.
Oh, that's a pretty good.
The World War I Museum, just like it just.
Where's that?
That's in Kansas City too.
What?
Yeah, and there's some really cool churches, like the oldest Catholic church in the oldest church in downtown Kansas City is this little Catholic church. And so we just did all sorts. Oh, like on the back of a Hallmark card? Have you ever looked at the back of a Hallmark card? There's a crown.
Not recently.
I know.
But go ahead.
Or if you happen to watch the Hallmark TV channel because you were bored.
Next time I'm at Walgreens, I will
flip it over. The crown is from the church next door to the Hallmark plant.
Really?
Yeah. The crown on the back of that is from the crown of the Blessed Virgin Mary. It's Our Lady of Sorrows Church in Kansas City. And then we went to Pilsen, to the place of Emil Capon.
We should do a show just on him.
Oh, yeah. That guy, Congressional Medal of Honor winner, POW, and saved
Catholic priest.
Saved 100 people's lives, probably, in prison.
And souls.
Yeah. I didn't realize the Chinese prison camp until this lady.
Spell his name so people can Google him.
Kapaun. Emil Capon.
Emil.
Emil.
That's his first name.
Yeah. And you can
Kapaun.
Yeah, there's a Catholic high school, Cape in Mount Carmel.
We should do a whole episode on just how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, that
because the people of Kansas cannot decide.
I know they can't. And no one pronounces it the same.
It's not my deal. Not my deal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you were on the road 11 days.
11 days.
With college students.
College students.
How
and
many?
2 chaperones. 11 college students, 2 chaperones, and myself.
How does said college students sign up for such a thing?
They just, every year we have a advertisement.
Just put it out there.
And then it goes on the group me, and then people sign up for it.
On the group me. Okay.
Yeah. Or it goes out on social media. It's made the announcements are at Mass, and
so
some people
hip.
find out like 5 days after we're on a pilgrimage.
And they're like, I want to go.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll meet you in Milwaukee.
We actually did have that one year. Some people met us in Poland because they were already moving over there.
Oh, nice.
Evelyn and Julia.
Yeah.
Evan and
Yeah.
Julia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what I thought would be interesting, because you said, what were your B's? Baseball, breweries,
Battlefields,
and basilicas.
Uh-huh.
So we've talked before. We've talked a lot about architecture.
Right.
When we first started the show, it was right when St. Francis Xavier had opened, and just the idea that we've used it before, that beauty attracts.
Oh yeah, it does.
That people want to be a part of something. So I was listening just a couple days ago to a podcast. It was an interview with the Archbishop of San Francisco. And I really am just talking about this because I want to say his name, which is Salvatore Cordileone. And I just love it. So he was talking about, they were asking him about what's it like to be the Bishop of San Francisco, which is kind of a very secular place, kind of theologically
mixed.
Yeah. And he said, the three transcendentals are truth, beauty, and goodness. And he said, so, we do have to emphasize the truth of what Christ teaches. Yep. We have to show goodness, and that is how we treat each other, how we especially reach out to the poor and the sick.
Yep.
But he said one of the reasons why Catholicism has lost its, I forget how he put it, but it kind of lost its edge or lost its attractiveness is because we have disregarded beauty.
Ooh, yeah. And
he actually hired, so I don't know the ins and outs of it, but they have an in-house composer. Like the Archdiocese of San Francisco hired, they have who is a composer. Okay. And his job is to compose beautiful music to be used throughout the Archdiocese. And I thought, dang.
That's pretty smart.
You don't hear that. That's
really forward thinking.
I've never heard of such a thing. But anyway, then it had me thinking of your trip to all of these places. So tell us about these churches.
As you're going throughout America, and you have these college students, and they're experiencing this stuff for the very first time. They've never seen these places. Most of them have never been.
You had been to all these places before?
No, I had not been to some of these places.
Okay.
I'd been to.
But you saw them on the
Polish Basilica in Milwaukee.
interwebs.
I have Shrine of St. Joseph. You bet I have. I made a pilgrimage there. But you get north, and I'm like, no. So students were asking the questions as we were going along about the difference in architecture, like their home parish versus the Polish Basilica, which is massive and glorious, and it's got these murals.
So it's bigger, but it's also, it's bigger than their parish church.
And it's filled full of art, and it has this uplifting feeling to it, and it's got, people spent their entire life savings building this church. Well, then you also hear, as you're going along the way, a student would say, well, this was in this other church, why isn't it here? And then you have to explain to them, somebody took it out.
Oh.
And then they ask the question, well, why did they take it out?
So what's do you have an example of that?
Okay, having an example.
Putting you on the spot here.
Such as a marble high altar. Or statues. Or we went into a church that was the same age as another church, but they had sort of 1990s, 80s, 90s windows in it.
Cartoonish?
No, sort of block glass.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they saw the pictures of what the church used to look like, they asked the question why would you get rid of those beautiful stained glass windows that are telling a story and get rid of that marble high altar Why would you get rid of that for something else? So
And you said?
and I said,
Because that's a legit, I mean, I think it's the experience. If you've been Catholic much of your life, especially our older listeners, both of them, they have seen this happen. I mean, my parents would tell you, like the church they grew up in Boston, some of those churches, and this, in the kind of the 60s,
Correct.
70s, and 80s, there was a renovation. Some people would use the polemical term a recovation, where they took something kind of traditional and I would say beautiful, and changed it to something more modern.
I'm going to try to not use the words traditional.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I think has happened, is sort of this. Okay, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
You're gonna have to roll with me for a second. There's this event that happened in the early 700s with the Emperor Leo III. Okay, and this is why I say,
we're going way back.
Buckle up for a second. We're going way back. There's this event that happened in the 700s with Leo III, and it's a big moment in the life of the church. It happened with him, but it also happened with his successors. So when he became emperor in the 700s, he started this thing called iconoclasm. And
Tell me more.
So iconoclasm is icon meaning image and clasm meaning smashing. So as Christianity is growing, there is also sort of this old understanding of kind of natural events and God's displeasure. So Leo III, the emperor, there's this event where there's a volcano erupts, and he comes to this understanding along with some other people that are around him that God is not pleased with him. And as he's asking the question, well, why isn't God pleased with him? He's got the image of Jesus on his coin, on the coin for the Byzantine Empire.
Nice.
Remember, this is like Byzantine East and West, Roman and Byzantine empires. And so as he's going through this, he's saying, well, what are we doing wrong? And the influence is coming in that we're not supposed to make images of God. And God is now mad.
They think you're breaking the graven images.
You're breaking the graven images. So what did the Emperor Leo III. Not Pope Leo III.
Saint Leo the 13th.
Yes, okay. So he orders his soldiers to go and to begin smashing images. And
it's like the Taliban.
Yeah, exactly. Remember what the Taliban came in? They started first blowing up those big Buddhist statues. I think it was in Afghanistan. So, okay, iconoclasm, image smashing. I mean, so like Saint Theodota of Constantinople. You're like, who is she? You're right.
I've been a Catholic my entire life. I am a priest, and I've never heard of that.
She was martyred in 735 in the city of Constantinople for the love of images.
Oh,
of
fighting
Jesus.
back against iconoclasm. Okay.
Yeah, so there are all sorts of saints. I have this book. I picked it up the other day, and it's called The Seven Ecumenical Councils.
Oh, we read that in seminary. Let me see that. Let me see the front. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just picked this up at an 8th Day bookstore in Wichita. Shout out to them. They have a fantastic icon collection. But as I'm both reading this and sort of like going over the past history of it, what was the iconoclasm heresy? Well, there's enough data out there, but also not like super amounts. And it's a Christocentric understanding of who Jesus is, that Jesus is human and he's divine. Like he has the fullness of both natures. He's both 100% human and 100% divine. He has a human nature and he's a divine person. And iconoclasm says you can't make images of the invisible God. And so it's an incarnational, like, are we doubting that Jesus has come into the world?
This is still around. I mean,
it's
we've talked about.
Let me get to that. I'm going to get on this in a second.
Yeah, we've talked about our like Protestant friends who would say, "Why do you got so many statues in your church?"
Okay, that we'll push that aside for a second, because as this is going on,
nobody
it's fierce.
puts Father O'Brien in a corner.
Well, you're currently in one in the studio. It's being pushed around, like the smashing of images, and any image that is found is taken. And so Constantine V comes to power, and he does the same thing, and it's sort of stopped. But there's even a what is considered a fake council that is enacted by Leo III or Constantine V, one of the two, to get even bishops to agree to this. And so they got
to smash the images.
To get all these images smashed. So eventually, both the East and the West, because the 5 patriarchal church weren't even invited to this council in the 700s. So they just, boom, they dissolved it. And it was a battle. Okay, so fast forward. 1500s. Protestant revolt shows up. And I don't say revolution, I say revolt.
Reformation?
It's not a reformation because that's a reformation. Remember, if you take a monarchy and turn it into a democratic republic, that's a revolt. Like the American Revolution.
Yep.
So what went on in the 1500s was a revolt where there were like the life of the church was changed dramatically, that there became the destruction of images again. The iconoclasm heresy showed back up in great force. So we were on a pilgrimage and we were going through France, and we just crossed the border from Belgium into France. And we stopped at this like beautiful 10th century church in the middle of nowhere, France. And there was a local official, the local sort of guide that was telling us, and they said, yeah, all the heads were smashed off the churches in the 1500s.
Wow.
So they went around and they climbed up, they knocked the heads off the statues.
Yeah.
Again, iconoclasm heresy, the smashing of images. This just to get the images out. Well, like in Gdańsk, so St. Mary's Cathedral in Gdańsk, Poland, northern Poland, and it was whitewashed. Absolutely 100% whitewashed.
So it was paintings that were just literally painted over.
With white. And that's the same thing that happened to Hagia Sophia.
Yep.
Like when the Turks took over, when the Ottoman Empire went in, what did they do to Hagia Sophia? They painted over everything. So now, fast forward, 1968 shows up. And what do, not the laity, but what did the clergy do? Iconoclasm heresy.
They went to Woodstock.
They began, as this little old lady said, they were pushing the stained glass windows out of the churches.
Wow.
They were tearing down the communion rails. This happened in our diocese too.
Well, I think what's interesting in Oklahoma, because the church here is very young.
Yeah.
I think we had less.
Well, look at Holy Family Cathedral. It was whitewashed.
Yep.
Entirely whitewashed.
I think we had it, but we had less of it than if you're in like a major American city where the church has been around, since the 1800s or before. You saw more of it than we would have here.
Yeah, we were told not to go to the cathedral in Milwaukee because you would be really sad when you saw it.
Oh.
Because it had been basically completely whitewashed on the inside. And what we know from Aristotle's got this line. He says, if it doesn't come through the senses, it's never in the mind. So what happened is it seemed like there was like an extremism on one side of like, we got to build these things and we got to put all these paintings all over the place. And the people didn't know why they had them. And that seems to be the case even in the 700s with iconoclasm. Like they didn't understand what all this art and these high altars and these communion rails were for. And so they swung all the way to the other side, which is card tables. And like card tables and like pretzel masses, which occurred.
Yep.
And they lowered everything so down that on one side, the angels didn't understand what was going on. The angels were like, what's going on in here? And on the other side, the angels were like, we don't know what's going on in here. This is so bland. And what it did, it dulled the senses. So it dulled the senses. So now no one, the people that were in those churches were like, oh, have we been worshiping incorrectly? Like it dulled the senses around that. It dulled the senses around like even how to learn. You no longer had these stained glass windows that told you the story. I mean, I heard stories of parishes where like the people showed up and basically told the priest like, we're going to beat you up if you take anything out of this church.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, because they had invested all their money into this place.
Well, yeah. And I mean, we talked about beauty, beauty attracts.
It does.
And so when you're I think it's happened at my parish certainly, and will happen at yours, and that is people like to bring their friends. Like, hey, come see my church. And you may not believe what we believe, you may not, but we can all get on the same page that this is beautiful.
Exactly. And you can walk them through the story of the scriptures if they're like, oh, I don't read the Bible. Well, let me show you the story of these beautiful stained glass windows, and I'll tell you the story of Jesus through them.
Yep.
And so what I just found out along the way is, one, that this iconoclasm heresy is still alive, and I don't think it's
nothing new under the sun.
Nothing new. It just rears its ugly head. And as an Eastern Catholic, as a priest of the Eastern Catholic Church, there's a great importance of iconography, images, to teach us. But also as the iconostasis is you looking into heaven and heaven looking back, so that it moves the mind to think above. Like every time I do a wedding, weddings. I love weddings. Anytime I do a wedding in your church.
Focus.
I know. Get up. Go back to it, Wakulich. Anytime I do a wedding in your church, I always tell people why this church is so tall. And because the purpose of it is when you walk in, it's supposed to lift your mind up. Mm-hmm. And what's up? Well, air quote, heaven.
You don't believe in heaven?
No, I do. But that's what it's supposed to make you think about.
Okay.
It's supposed to make you think about heaven. It's supposed to lift your eyes up to the crucifix, to the angels. Mm-hmm. And so this was an education for me and an education for my college
students. And certainly for them, yeah.
Yeah, because it was like when you went from marble to shag carpet. Like you would go into a church. We went into a couple of them, and they were like, yeah, we peeled back the shag carpet and we found this ornate wooden floor that was built in the early 1800s by the Germans. And you're like, I'm sorry, what? Like, yeah. So we found this statue over here and it's got carved veins. Like you could run your hand down the wooden veins and feel the veins of Jesus's hands. And it was all carved out of wood from some forest in Germany.
Wow.
And that was just stuff
sitting
in
a storage room somewhere.
And that is, I mean, I get it. I understand where it came from, but it also tells us like our belief in who Jesus is. Like not only
it ought to come through. I mean, the awesomeness of God and God's goodness and beauty ought to come through in every aspect of life. The way we live. How we preach, how we treat each other, but also in the buildings in which we pray and invite people to come and to know what we know.
Yeah, and even St. Francis, your new church, well, it's a couple of years old, is a great opportunity to teach people the faith who don't know it.
When your church gets built, I'm going to look forward to talking about St. Francis as the oldest Catholic church in Stillwater. We're going to put up a sign. Welcome to the oldest, circa 2018.
That's the oldest Catholic
So
church.
I think one thing we're trying to do as we close up here, is to try to, in our little corner of the world, our little Payne County here, is to build beautiful churches. And it's not, our goal is not to defeat iconoclasm. I mean, that's not our job, but like to build something beautiful for God, for the people that are here, for the people, the thousands of people that come and visit every year, to show God's goodness and beauty, and that they might then take that into their own lives and come to know Christ as their Savior and the Catholic Church as the means to salvation.
Right. And to show them that like Jesus, who is fully God and fully man, is alive. That's the purpose of all of this.
Yep.
And if we lose that focus, if we lose that point of attention, that this is all to know that Jesus is fully God and fully man, he's died for us and he rose. I mean, that's what it's for. That's what it's all for. Thanks, man.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us once again. Come back next week. Tell your friends. And we hope you have a great week. God bless.
Peace.